get down.
What's up, guys? Ivan here. Welcome to my podcast. And today I'm here with Bree and Sadie. Bree welcomes to our house, and this is pretty cool. Thanks for having us. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. They're super interesting. And then we'll see how it goes. So, how you ladies doing?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
What's new? Did you guys hear about the new workout?
The
19.4?
We're at 4?
I heard it sounds like I can do the first half, and then there's like muscle ups. I stopped listening.
I was trying to see. What was it?
It's snatches and burpees for like the first half. And then it's, muscle ups?
And 3-minute rest, and then muscle ups. And as soon as I said muscle ups, I was like, okay, I'm not listening to that.
Your snatch is not that heavy though, right? For you guys?
No,
is
65.
65, and I think you can either squat or power or something.
Yeah.
I think it's just a snatch. And then burpees. And then rest.
Is it 12?
Is the rest
12,
like mandatory?
I don't know. I didn't read it.
Yeah.
No?
I just heard it from my husband.
Are you guys doing it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 a.m.
Oh, you're doing it at 7?
I hope so.
He was saying he wants to go at 4:30 for the Friday Night Lights.
Oh, at Diablo?
Yeah.
Well,
no, with us.
No, with us, yeah.
I know you're doing
Sure.
over there too.
I probably won't.
No.
Because I have to work all day tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be
It's so hard
exhausted.
to work out in the afternoon.
So I'll probably do it on Sunday.
To work out?
For me, yeah.
In the morning, it's so hard for me. I teach like 5 a.m. sometimes, 6 a.m. like Tuesday and Thursday, and I don't even know how people do it. I know you go sometimes. You guys go early. It's hard for me. I feel stiff. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
I'm in bed at like 8, so.
Got the energy, you've got the coffee.
Yeah.
Cool.
Our kids have already been up for 2 hours.
That's true. I don't have kids, so I'm still good. Our dogs are pretty our Frenchies snore a lot, so they kind of wake us up sometimes. But cool. All right, so I know that you ladies are doing something really cool. Tell me a little more, real quick, about people that don't really know you guys. Tell me real quick about you two. Let's start with you, Bree. Just tell me what you do, and kind of a quick run by you.
Sure. So I'm a mom of 2 kids. I've got a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. My husband and I both do CrossFit. He got me into CrossFit after my first daughter, or my first kid. I am a part-time biomedical teacher. I teach juniors and seniors in San Ramon at California High School. I've been teaching for 11 years. This is my 11th year. And I'm also just I delve into a lot of different things. I actually have my personal training certification.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I've never actually used
It's
it as a career.
It's a little-known secret about training. Yeah.
Wait, when did you get that?
Oh my gosh, I got that probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you do the was it through a school that you went to?
No, I just did the course.
Was it in do you know which one it was?
The ACE.
Oh, cool. That was tough.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was just interested in it. I didn't know if I wanted to make it a career. So I got my
Did you train anybody?
Myself.
Oh, perfect.
So just like now, I'm working out more at home because this is my home gym.
Pretty cool, by the way.
I've just been programming for myself actually since I got my certification because I've always kind of been a lone workout person. Like AJ needs more of a group, but I'm cool. I'll be dying on the floor here just as much as my CrossFit. So yeah, and then I'm in the process and almost done getting my herbalist certification to become an herbalist.
AJ told me you guys are doing what do you call it? Food forest?
Yes.
That sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, it's really fun, actually. I'm actually 3/4 of the way done planting everything.
Okay.
So I'm really excited. This year is the 2nd year for some of my fruit trees, so I should be getting a ton of peaches and nectarines this year, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I think we're almost done with 10 raised garden beds as well.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And we have nut trees, we have almond trees that I just planted, cherry trees, I mean, you name it, we have everything. And then dispersed in between there, I have some annual plants. So I've got asparagus growing, I'm gonna do artichokes, and then I've got medicinal herbs growing, and I've just got a lot of stuff, yeah.
Are we gonna be able to come shopping? Should we go to the Schrader's farmers market?
Yeah.
It's going to be I imagine, just fully sustainable one day, which is the goal, right?
Yep, that's the goal.
That's crazy.
Very little water having to be added. We're hoping to put either a rainwater collection system in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. It sounds cool.
Yeah, we're going to add chickens next year and bees the following year.
What?
Yeah.
You guys are crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sadie, how about you?
Oh, and that's kind of a passion of yours,
Yes.
right? That's the other piece that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That you want to sort of teach other people how to do that, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll talk. I'll ask you a few questions because I'm pretty interested about that.
Okay.
I think I know you've been doing this for a while, like fitness thing, right? I got my certification probably about like 10 years ago, and then I did it for a while. I recertified a couple of times, and I got my cross certification. I worked with a bunch of people, right? And I know kind of like the core of it, right? And I practiced a bunch of stuff, learned through the process, but I'm pretty sure that you know a lot more than me in terms of like food and nutrition and all that. So we're going to dive on that a little bit. But before that, I want to know about Sadie too.
Oh, thanks. So also a mom of two.
Okay.
My son Emmett is 7 and Hazel is 5. And I'm a nurse practitioner, and I've been practicing since 2005. As a nurse in 2005 and then nurse practitioner since 2008. And I work for Stanford, and I work with kids, particularly kids that have cancer and blood disorders. And I love that, and it's not that I will ever walk away from that, but seeing the grief and the hardship that the families go through, and like seeing day after day these stories of resilience, and also seeing like how amazing these people are as they go through this process when the world is like storming on them, and then seeing how we waste it. Like we all walk around with everything perfectly fine in our lives, and and we're not healthy and we don't feel well, and so it became a big contrast. So over the past probably 5 years, I've just developed this passion towards wellness as opposed to treating illness.
Yeah.
So I do workshops, and because I'm a pediatric focused person and because I'm a mom, I feel like it always circles back to raising healthy families.
Yeah. That's
and
pretty cool.
She and I guess we kind of met in that way. Mm-hmm. She came to me to help restore her restore her ab strength after her second child.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But we just became like soulmates. I mean, I look back and it's like we actually haven't even known each other that long for how close we are.
It's been, Parker's 2.5, and we met, 6 weeks after he was born, so it was just about 2.5 years.
Oh, cool. Time flies, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So crazy.
So we just bonded over all of these things, and then we like geek out on all this stuff. We were driving one day back from the mountains after having like a girls' weekend, just us two and then our 2 daughters.
Oh, nice.
And we're like talking about all this stuff, and we're like, we're gonna change the world. we have to do a project together.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned something earlier, like pretty interesting, that you said that that we walk around like it's like we have good days and bad days. Everybody has problems, but we forget sometimes that there's people out there that go through a lot more than sometimes we complain about like anything, right? Like even the littlest thing at home, like whatever it is. Yeah. But then we got to remind ourselves that it's like, okay, there's a lot. This is not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things out there that people go through that it's a lot harder, right? So it looks like you're really, really passionate about what you do. Because I can see you're like really passionate about it.
Yeah, I like get goosebumps when you say that. Like there's people who go through a lot more. It's so true. Like we have so much to be thankful for. And I mean, you can probably look back at your life and think like there's times where you've gone through some stuff, right? And like you can think about how grateful you are that things are going so well right now. So I don't know, those things are touching to me. Like those stories of, resilience are really cool.
That's pretty cool. And then you say you're a nurse too, right?
Yeah, nurse practitioner.
So what do you do that?
Stanford. So I work for Stanford.
Okay.
But I practice in Walnut Creek.
Oh, cool.
So we have a satellite location in Walnut Creek.
Okay. And you've been doing that for as long as?
11. I've been a nurse practitioner for 11 years and a nurse since 2005. So 14 years.
That's a long time.
I know.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
That's awesome. And then talking about like you guys kind of get meeting each other and then on a journey to change the world, right? Mm-hmm. So what are you guys doing right now? Because I know there's something going on.
Yeah.
I heard about it. AJ told me a little about it, but I don't really know. So I want to learn more about it. What are you guys doing together?
Yeah. Do you want to take that?
No, go ahead.
We're writing a book, And it is meant to be sort of a comprehensive guide to wellness for families. So we are both like rabid consumers of wellness material. We've read tons of books. Not to mention like research papers, right? And kids are practically absent from it. There are some things about like nutrition for kids or mindfulness for kids, but there's not really like a one resource of like, this is how children grow up whole. And so our book is meant to be something that parents can read and change their selves and their kids at the same time. It's kind of like a singular resource of just like the simplistic things. Like, don't focus on like getting the perfect, recipe for all this stuff. It's like, just do the basics and you'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of meant to bridge the scientific research on health promotion, and sort of the theme of it is all bringing in like these intuitive, ancient, indigenous lessons that are kind of long forgotten.
That's pretty cool. So you were saying one thing that I actually talked to. It's funny because we at the gym we run kids classes, right?
Yeah.
And then we have in the past parents that come to us like, hey, how can I make my kid eat better, right? How can I make my kid like take better decisions? But the kid is like really young. Right? The kids are like, I'm talking about like 7 years old. And it's kind of hard to approach that. And my question comes in a second. It's hard to approach that to the parent because I almost want to tell the parents like, it's kind of on you. Like, the kid doesn't really make money or doesn't really, so how do you guys approach that on your book, or the way that you kind of, if you were to talk to maybe like somebody that's really interested about like what you guys are doing, how would you approach that? What would you say?
On the nutrition front?
Yeah, like to a parent. Yeah.
I can answer, but I'll give you a chance to go.
I think it depends on the situation and the kid. But it also is there's just some basic advice that I give to people that have kids. And one is, if it's not in the house, they can't even ask for it.
Yeah.
So the problem becomes, if you as a parent are addicted to something that you are eating and the kid is seeing you eat that and the kid knows it's in the house, they're going to want it. And that's just kind of how it goes. So that's first. But trying to get it out of the house is really, really, really hard. But the other thing is just offering kids the healthy stuff all the time, even if they don't touch it. My son is not the best eater of vegetables, but I offer him vegetables at every single meal. And guess what? Sometimes he eats a whole plate of them. He'll go a month without touching them, and then he'll eat an entire plate. And part of me is like, well, maybe he just needed more of the high carb, like tortillas. I make my own corn tortillas, and he just eats them up like crazy. And maybe because he's growing or where he is, he just needs that at that moment. But I keep offering it, and eventually he puts it in his mouth. So that's just another piece. And making healthy food just accessible for kids so that they're independent. They can go and get it whenever they want. Like positioning healthy food in the pantry and the fridge where the kid can feel independent enough to just go grab an apple or whatever. That's kind of the basic advice I give to parents who want their kids.
That makes sense. I think the kids sometimes go like most kids, it's rare when they're not. I'm kind of the exception there, but most kids like sweets, right? They're looking for something sweet, and people tend to have in their house like all this crap food, like all this processed, carbohydrates with sugar and all this stuff, right? So I think that I always thought about this, right? So it's starting to like making that transition because sweet is sweet to a kid, right? If you just give a kid, like a fruit. It almost feels like they don't really realize that it's like good or bad at that time, right? Because they don't really know the difference between good or bad at that time. Yeah. So if you just give them something sweet and you start getting that for the kids to get used to, that change slowly, then eventually I feel like they don't realize. But what do you? I mean, is that something that people have a hard time with, or how do you deal with that stuff? The transition from eating really bad, or maybe my kid eats really bad because I have a bad I just been doing bad with myself. How do I change that? How do I make that transition?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing to realize is that you're not born with a sweet tooth, right? You're not born liking any one particular thing. Tastes are acquired. And interestingly, like what your infant will prefer even starts with what mom ate when she, like in utero.
That's interesting, yeah.
So in cultures where they eat really spicy food, the kids will eat spicy foods much earlier on because they've been exposed to like little bits of spice all along.
That makes sense now.
Yeah.
My Mexican heritage, right?
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
spicy. That makes sense now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too. I'm trying to figure out why my kids don't though, because I've been like in their sleep putting it there. I'm just kidding.
That's hilarious.
But
That's pretty cool.
I think the other thing is you have to realize that how you teach your kids to eat, mostly, unless you've done the research or unless you've gone to a class, most of the time people teach their kids to eat in the way that they were taught to eat. So these kinds of behaviors are passed down, whether they're good or bad, right? So that's one thing to realize. I think that keeping the healthy food available, but also like trusting your kids to choose and not that control and that forcing.
Yeah.
That's and like walking the walk. Like that's the thing is most parents actually I don't know about most. A lot of people are wanting to change their own eating habits. So it's like don't even really touch the kids until you feel like you can present the good example.
Totally. Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because going back to like person that asked me a long time ago, it's like I feel like if they want to make a change on their kids, but if they're not gonna make a change on themselves, it's gonna be really hard to do that, right? Because I mean, you're gonna tell your kid to do something when you're not doing it, right? So I feel like it's change yourself first, and then you can go from there, right? That's pretty cool. So now, how do you? This is a question that I'm asking because I'm actually really curious about this. So I've been dealing with people in the past where they come to me and they're like, I want to do this, but my husband doesn't want to do it. Or they're like, I need to have this at home because my husband can't live without it. Or, my kid or whatever it is, right? So if they want to make a change, so eventually they can actually help their kids make a change, but they have that kind of like that obstacle there. Like I told them, I said, well, I mean, I feel like you got to just tell them, you got to do this with me, right? But at the same time, I don't want them to create conflict on the relationship, right? Because it's like, it could happen. So what's the best way to approach that?
Well, for me, I actually went through that with my family. When I met my husband, he was a much healthier eater than me and my family and the way that I grew up. My family was addicted to sweets. I mean, we had dessert after lunch and dinner. I mean, my grandparents' house, they had like a whole counter of desserts, and then on every coffee table was a jar of M&Ms.
Oh man!
Like that's just the way that my dad and grew up.
Actually,
and so that's the way
my grandma has like a candy jar.
Yeah,
too, so
exactly.
Yeah.
So I met AJ and he wasn't eating like that, but now we look back and he wasn't really eating that healthy either, but he was eating healthier than I was.
Okay.
And I decided to, after gaining like 20 pounds freshman year of college, decided I needed to make a change. So I did, and then I went home that summer, and I gave my mom a list of groceries that I wanted, and I said I didn't want to eat certain things. And my entire family took it as a personal attack, I think, on them, and they started making fun of me and acting kind of cruel and making me feel really bad about my choices, even though I felt like this was something I was doing for me. And I wasn't forcing it on them. I was just saying,
I'm making these changes.
I'm making these changes. Could you just buy a couple different things at the grocery store for me? And I was like, I'll pay for it. It's all good. And I never forced them. And it's funny, within 2 years, pretty much my entire family changed the way they ate, just by my example. Simply by just living and being me and doing my thing.
And I'm sure, you could have, you're saying they were like not super supportive and they were like kind of full on attack and everything, right? So you could have just been like, okay, whatever, I'll just go back to what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
But you were like, no, I'm going to make a change, and you had to put up with like the whole family for a while.
Yeah.
But then eventually it was worth it, right?
Oh, definitely worth it.
Cool.
It changed my life.
It reminds me a lot when I go visit my parents. So my parents are typical, just old school Mexican, like just mom and dad. You go home, and the table is like full of food. It's ridiculous. Like it's just like a feast. It looks like there's like probably a party of 20 coming over, and it's just my wife and I.
Yeah.
And sit at the table, and they're like, "You want more? You want more? You want more?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." They want to feed you more. And then the thing is this, right? I say I don't want any more, and she said, "You don't like it? You don't like it?" Yeah. So I that's why I'm asking, because it's so hard, right? Do you wanna? Sometimes you want to make a change, not just for yourself, but for the ones that you love to. But then people don't really see it that way, right? So that's definitely a really delicate situation right there. But your example was pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
What about you, Sadie?
What's that?
What about you?
When I was just going to say that there's a whole section in the first part of our book where it's food is the F word, and it's called that because it's so loaded.
I love that. That's awesome.
It really is loaded. Like people, your mom's not pushing food down your throat because she wants you to eat more food just because it's food. It's because she's trying to love you, right?
Totally.
And she wants you to be pleased with it, and not that you should like eat to the point of feeling uncomfortable, but that's not a time to be like, oh, I'm not eating that, Mom, right? Like unless you see her every week, but if you see her not that often, like that's a time to like forget all this stuff and enjoy the food, right?
I know what you mean. Yeah. So, and it's funny that you say that because that's what the way I see it, right? I go over there and I see him once in a while.
Yeah.
And even more now, they just moved to Texas from here, so they're even farther. So, I always been like that. So growing up, my dad was always like, be nice to your mom, no matter what. Like if she made the food, you eat it because she worked hard to make food, and you gotta eat it, right? So yeah, we go visit, and then we I eat whatever she gives me, right? Yeah. But it's always a challenge because it's like in my back of my head, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to eat that, but I end up eating it. But at the same time, though, right? I'm so good through my when at home we cook everything at home, we shop at the farmers market, we eat really healthy. So doing that once in a while, it's not gonna make that much damage, right? And I think at the end of the day, it kind of gives you like, it's funny. So when I eat, I do really good, and then I eat something bad, and it's like, oh, I deserve it. And then after I eat it, it makes me feel like crap, and I don't want to eat it again for a while. So it's kind of a cycle there, and it's actually kind of, I almost feel like even though at that moment I don't feel great, it kind of creates a cycle where like it makes you want to go back to healthy foods, right?
Yeah, and that's because you're listening, right? So that's because you have a place of wellness as like your home.
Yeah.
So that when you start to feel bad, you notice it and you're like, nope, and you head back.
Yeah.
Where people get into a slippery slope is where there's just like they're not paying attention, and then they eat more of that, and all of a sudden they're like, I feel like crap, and I don't understand why.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, these few, like I talked about, the basic changes makes them feel so much better. But I think if you're talking about a spouse who's got like an eating style that's sabotaging your healthy intentions or whatever, I think it kind of comes down to ownership. Like you just have to be able to say, like for example, if you were training for a competition, and you had a particular thing that you like, a particular goal with like your body composition, and you went home and you're like, Mom, I'm really this thing I'm really working towards, so I'm going to take it easy. Like I imagine she'd probably kind of understand it if you spoke about it in a way that was like about your wellness or about your goal, and she just wants you to succeed, right? So she would probably, I don't know your mom, but I'm guessing that if she wants the best for you, then she's going to say, okay, I'm going to lay off of this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the way that you approach it, right, I think it's going to be a big deal, right? Because, if you just attack your spouse and be like, hey, this is the way we're doing it because of this, because of that, they're going to feel attacked, right? Kind of, you were talking about with your family and everything, right? I don't really know how you approach that then, but maybe sometimes try to be a little more like, hey, I'm doing this because of this, and explain it a little better. It might help a little more.
Like I just want to see how I feel. I just want to see like where this goes. So I'm going to do this for a little while, and I'll report back to you. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I think when I first made those changes, I did sit down with my family, and eventually what they were saying was upsetting me. And so I sat them down and I said, this is really upsetting, but this is why I'm doing it. And I'm just trying it. And I just want to feel better. And I think once I told them that, they definitely laid off.
Yeah.
And they didn't change anything themselves, but they did lay off of me. And they let me do my thing. And eventually it's funny how they just, from my example, changed their ways. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's really hard, right? Because I wanted before. I tried before to kind of teach my parents, teach them how to like, okay, you guys should probably do this and that. But it's hard. Sometimes it doesn't work just that way, right? If I tell them, they're not going to, just doesn't mean they're going to do it, right? So maybe sometimes, I don't know, doing something like offering to like, I realize this too, and I'm glad, I'm really excited for you guys that, they're coming with a book because it might help a lot. So maybe that's a gift too. But maybe it's like giving my mom a vacuum, right? What do you mean you want me to clean more, right? So I don't know, whatever. But there might be other ways, right? Where like maybe I give a gift. Hey, I found a really cool book or something, really cool article. Check out this video, whatever. And maybe with that, the message coming from somewhere else and not me, it might actually be a little better, right? So that's pretty cool. All right, I have a question that I don't forget before I forget. So going back to the kids, right? And I remember this because a friend went through this before. So what if, I want to know your thoughts. What if for example, like for some reason, the parent made a lot of mistakes through, when the kids were born or whatever, there were, kind of bad habits or sweets or whatever it was. And then it gets to the point where like almost the kid, it's like going through like almost like an eating disorder where like maybe they're hiding food or they're hiding candy or whatever it is, right? And as soon as the parent realizes that that's happening, I don't want to say, it got to the point where like a kid's hiding food and they realize, how can a parent address that? And how can they start trying to fix it, the situation or the problem?
That's a good question. I don't know that I'm the best to talk about eating disorders. I would probably say the best thing to do is just intuitively, my thought is as a parent to first evaluate your own eating behavior and the message that you're sending and the power play, like the control, because that usually happens when kids feel like they don't have control. Okay. They're feeling like they're needing to hide because they don't have the freedom to eat the way that they want to eat, right? I know what you mean. Or the ability to balance, or they don't have an example of balance. So that would be the first thing. But if there was a concern about something, really troublesome, I feel like they would need to get help from like a mental health professional. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Because I know that it's a really delicate like situation, right? When it comes to that point, right? Where like I feel like parents sometimes they feel like they don't really know how to address it. Yeah. Like, what should I do? Should I like directly tell my kids to stop doing that, which is probably not the best way to do it, right? Yeah. Or just let them eat it whenever they want to, which is probably not the best way either. Yeah. So it's kind of hard, right? It's a tough one there. So I think that maybe it sounds like the way you guys are explaining this, it's hopefully trying to create good habits from the beginning, or even if you're kind of started bad and you're trying to make some habits slowly, making changes slowly, right? It's probably the best way to do it. Because I feel like that's what happens sometimes, right? If the kid is used to eating really bad, whatever that is, whatever it looks like, if we try to like just cut that completely, then that's when, the kid, you're taking something their kid's so used to, right? It's almost like they need it, right? It's almost like people with caffeine, right? They need it. So now you take it away, well, they're probably going to start doing it somewhere else or hiding the food or whatever, right? Yeah. That's the way I look at it. I don't know if it's the way it works, but
yeah. So. I think whatever in whatever way they're trying to be controlled or forced, they will resist, and they'll either resist directly or they'll resist in a sort of more passive aggressive kind of way, right? Yeah. So I think even if you're talking about a kid who's 10 years old and has had a terrible example of food and a terrible diet and is super picky, then I think you can still, and Brie probably could speak more to this in terms of like the practical tips, but you can give them ownership over the change. So it doesn't have to be, here's what we're doing and you have to do this. It could be like, our family's working on getting healthier. Here's what I'm doing. I thought this might be fun for you. Look at this whole list of foods. Yeah. Which one do you want? Any choice of what I bring home from the grocery store? If you do, circle a few of the ones you like, and we'll bring those home and we'll start experimenting, like including them instead of saying like, eat your vegetables,
Just like make it like a punishment. Yeah, if you make it a punishment, it gets yeah. So kind of going to what we're saying right now. So what if not everybody out there has the chance to be able to build like a food forest in their home, right? Or maybe I know you say you guys have some animals at home, and then you have you have eggs at home, you got other stuff, right? So what if somebody doesn't have like the chance to be able to like, maybe they don't have the time or the space to do the same? Because a lot of people, that's like 90% of the people, right? So what do you guys recommend in terms of that? Like, where should people where should they shop, or like what are your thoughts?
So obviously, growing your own food is going to be the best. And even just growing kitchen herbs on your counter right next to your window is something fun that you can add that fresh food. Because honestly, when food is picked, from the time it's picked to the time it goes to your plate, it's probably already lost half of its nutrients. But the other thing is if you don't have that, that's the best option. Next best option is your local farmer's market, because that's traveled, it hasn't traveled far. It's probably pretty fresh, been cut within a few days. Then the next would be organic produce from your local grocery store.
Okay.
And then beyond that, yeah, you want to try to get organic if you can afford it. But if you can't, just look on the Dirty Dozen list online. Those are the ones there's 12 of them that you definitely want to buy organic. And then the rest you can buy conventionally grown. Those are the best options.
There's also, if you can't make it to the farmer's market, because that's often an extra stop, right? There's some things you have to go to the grocery store for. If you're really busy. There's boxes, right? So you can get
it's really popular
CSA.
right now.
Yeah, you can actually customize your box. So it can be from a farm that's an hour away from you, and you can say what you want in it, and it just gets delivered, and it's totally fresh, right? Like it has come from the farm. So
I heard about that a lot. They do that a lot with not just with like vegetables. They do that with like meat, with like all their produce and everything. That's pretty cool. I never done that before. But do you guys do that at all? Have you done it before?
She's done it.
We do. We get one that is imperfect produce. So it's actually
That's the name
produce.
Of it?
Yeah, it's the stuff that is cosmetically challenged.
Oh, like it doesn't look pretty.
Like we got a carrot that is like a giant carrot. But that for a grocery store, like
people are gonna be like, "What are they laughing?"
There's a very strict standard, even though it's organic. There's a very strict standard with what can actually be sold in a store.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
it's kind of a way to like recycle. It's not recycling, but it's like minimizing food waste.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. What's the name of that company?
Imperfect Produce.
Imperfect Produce. Is that just vegetables, or they do anything else?
They do a lot of stuff, and with that one though, you do kind of have to be careful because you can order things on there that are definitely not local. Like we got a thing of tomatoes from Chile, and I was like, oh, I don't mind that we got. I would rather have it local though, because I know that was probably picked.
I mean, by the time
a month ago,
right? Yeah.
By the time I get it, yeah.
Well, remember that I was talking to AJ before. He was telling me about how I didn't know this, but you guys make your own bread, right?
Yes.
So talking about how like things that get imported from somewhere else, or like things that are on the shelf and everything, right? So bread is kind of this thing. People have this like thought about bread where like carbs are really bad for you, right? Which is not true. We need carbs. Carbs are good for you, but there's different quality of carbohydrates, right? And then people say, okay, well, I'm going to go with good quality carbohydrates, which is pretty much like, I don't know, sweet potatoes and blah, blah, whatever. And then like, okay, I'm going to stay away from bread. Now, the other day I talked to AJ, and he was saying that it's really funny interesting how like you guys make your own bread, and then the bread lasts like 3 to 4 days, maybe 3 days, right? But you can go to the store and buy like a little bread, and it's like the expiration is like months.
Yeah.
How does that?
They just add a lot of
crazy.
stuff to bread to extend its shelf life. I mean, anything you buy in a package at the store, they add stuff to it to extend its shelf life, and that should be a red flag. It's a red flag for me.
Totally. Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it's not. It's just normal. It's what they do. They go and they buy bread, and it lasts.
Well, I feel like most of us just don't know better, right?
Right.
It's like,
We don't. Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean. It's been like that for many, many, many years, right? So for generations, we've been like just used to that. We're like, it's just bread. That's how all bread is. Like if I make bread at home, it's probably gonna last a long time too.
Yeah.
On this note, this is really interesting. I once, I don't know, a year ago, I was watching this forensic science documentary, and they said that forensic science is actually changing, where, like, if they see a dead body, there used to be a certain. Sorry, you're like,
no,
where
it's all right.
where is this going?
This is interesting. I like this.
If they see a dead body, there used to be a certain rate of decay that was expected.
Okay.
But with all the preservatives that standard American diet is full of, the body decays more slowly. Like you are what you eat. Isn't that crazy?
That
so they're
is
having
crazy.
to change like the dating mechanism that they use.
So
for dead bodies.
so this saying that people say like you are what you eat, it's literally.
Yeah.
Literally
It's
true.
crazy.
Literally
It
true.
is.
That's crazy. That was kind of creepy, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's pretty interesting though. That's really, really cool. So is there okay, I want to go back to your book. Do we know the date? When is it coming out? Do we know yet? You don't have to tell. I'm just asking, but you guys will have to share anything if you don't want to.
We're so early in the process.
Okay, it's all right.
We've finished the proposal and the first section of 4 sections of the book, and we really wanted to publish through a traditional publisher versus self-publishing. It's much easier to self-publish. It's really hard to get published.
Okay.
But we really want to, because we feel like it would lend a lot of credibility. And the goal of the book, like we said, is we want to change the world, right?
Yeah, you want to reach a lot of
people. We want people to read it. Yeah. So we are submitting to agents. So we need an agent, and then the agent wheels and deals the deal. Like basically, a publisher won't even look at you without an agent.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Anybody that knows a friend or has somebody that's a literary agent, send them our way.
I'll put you guys as
we need a personal referral.
I'll put your like Instagrams and stuff like right here.
Yeah.
And then you can contact her.
Yeah, but so that's where we're which honestly it took us a year even to get there, almost a year.
Yeah.
Just to research and write. It's so much. I'm like, this book cost $15, and this is 2 or 3 years of someone's life in $15. It's like the best deal.
So wait, so there's I don't know much about how all this book stuff works, but so you were saying there's 4 sections. That means that there's going to be 4 books, or there's 4 sections within one book.
4 sections within one book.
Oh, okay, I know what you mean. Okay.
Like 4 parts.
So is the book done? Are you guys done with the book, or are you still working on it?
Yeah, no, we've written the first part of the book, like you said, and the book proposal. But you don't have to write the whole book to get it published.
Okay.
The publisher will actually pay you like in advance.
They pay you to write the rest.
Yeah, they pay you to write the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's almost like a I know what you mean, like an investor.
Yeah,
Like
so it's like the
yeah.
book proposal is like a business plan for the book.
Right.
So we're like, this book is marketable for these reasons. Here's the audience. Here's our personal platform. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan over the next couple of years to promote the book, blah, blah, blah.
That's pretty cool.
So the book will have 4 sections. The first is nutrition, just because that seems to be like what people first and foremost want to know about, like as we have spent most of the time talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's because it's like the most immediate thing you can do to make a difference, right? And how you feel. There's a section on mindfulness, a section on play/exercise. So for kids, they exercise through play.
Yeah.
For adults, we sort of like force ourselves to exercise, but eventually you learn like a little secret sauce that if you make it playful, then you actually want to do it.
Yeah.
And then it's fun. And then the 4th section's on connection and community, like personal connection.
That's pretty good. So it's now, so this is really cool that I'm glad you mentioned that, because my first impression was like, it was almost kind of like a nutrition book, but it covers so much more than just nutrition, because it's a you know, the way you guys said it, wellness, how do you call it? Health and wellness, right? It's more than just your food, right? It's like your, exercise and, your mindset is actually like what I feel like one of the most important things, right? Because if you have problems up here, I feel like everything else is going to be a lot harder, right?
Really.
That's pretty cool.
The theme kind of going through all of it is that it's all connected. So you can't really just focus on nutrition because there's so many other parts of you. And you can't really focus just on one person because they live within a family.
Yeah.
You can't really focus just on one country because we live in a world. Like, it kind of gets bigger.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you mentioned exercise is going to be like, be part of like a section of the book, right? So learn a little more about you two. Okay. So what is your I don't want to call it history, but your experience with like fitness? When did you get started? When you realized, okay, I'm going to start being active? Maybe you went through whatever until you found what you love to do now. What do you do now? And how do you stay healthy and fit on what you do? What do you guys do?
I'll start, sure. So I grew up in sports.
Okay.
I played basketball all through high school. Almost played in college, but decided not to. In college, I joined the water ski and wakeboard team because I had to do something active. And then I got into running. I ran 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, ended up running a marathon.
Ouch.
After the marathon, I was like, I think I'm done with running. Then I got really into yoga.
Okay.
This is just me. This is just how I
You're still into
go,
yoga,
right?
right?
I'm still into yoga. I love yoga. And then AJ, my husband, got into CrossFit when I was pregnant with my daughter. And he was like, you're going to love CrossFit. This is so for you because you're so competitive and you love sports. So after my daughter was born, I got into CrossFit. Still doing CrossFit today with my husband and with Sadie. And I just love it. I haven't gotten sick of it. And it's been like 3 years. So that's pretty good for me because I go in cycles where I just get bored of whatever physical activity I'm doing, but I have not gotten bored yet.
And do you do yoga somewhere? Like, do you go to a gym or you do it yourself?
No, I do it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Do you know, like, do you have to learn yoga so you can do it yourself, or do you follow a program or videos, or how do you do it?
So I started with online videos, and then I joined a yoga studio. I was at the yoga studio probably for like a year and a half.
Okay.
And then, I have a online program that there's hundreds of yoga videos on this, and I pay $14 a month. It's called 108TV.
Oh, cool.
.com. So, so we do that. I do that mainly so I don't get hurt in CrossFit. I think it helps.
Just keep you like.
And it also just strengthens your core and your supporting muscles for all of the movements that we do in CrossFit.
Good. So, nice. Yeah. How about you, Sadie?
So similar. I played sports growing up, and I always have just kind of been active. I definitely always felt like exercise was something I knew I was supposed to do.
Oh,
like
really?
I didn't. Sports, that's one thing, but like I remember starting to go to the gym in high school, and it wasn't something I particularly enjoyed, but I knew I was supposed to do it, so I did it. It was kind of more like of a chore.
Okay.
But I liked how I would feel after, but I would always have to talk myself into going to the gym. I think as a college student, young adult, I started getting into running also, and I kind of learned at that point, once I started having more stress, I realized that running was kind of like a mental salve for me. It was like a little meditation.
Yeah.
I could kind of get into this zone, this trance, and like that was great. So then I started doing CrossFit, and it was like the first thing that made exercise something that I was like, okay, when's my next day? When's my next day? Like I was looking forward to it. And I don't know if it's the playfulness of it. I don't know if it's I think the progress is probably part of it, because the only other thing that I have felt that way about is snowboarding, and it's the same kind of thing. It's technically challenging.
You actually see improvement as you go.
You get better every single time you do it. Yeah. So yeah, totally a passionate CrossFitter, and I love ATI.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. So question, going back to like exercise and kids. So this is something that I thought right now, and sometimes when I think of something, I don't want to lose it in my head. So what do you guys, on terms of exercise, so what do you recommend on terms of, like, because I think it's hard, I have my own thoughts on this. Kids from when they're ready to do any sort of like exercise or sports or whatever it is, right? All the way process, all the way to like high school. I think that by the time they get to college, they're kind of either on sports or not. They're kind of on their own. They're already adults and they're kind of taking their own decisions, right? But from like, I don't know, what is it? Well, I don't know when kids can start doing. I don't have kids yet, so 3 years old they can start doing activities, right? Like any sort of like three to like all the way through middle school, right? Yeah. I think, and I want you to tell me if you agree and what your thoughts are. I think that, on terms of exercise, when they're little, right? Again, going back to the kids don't really make their own decisions, right? They don't really know what to take, what's best and what's not. So I think that maybe for kids at the beginning, when they're little, starting with like some like really skill activities, like maybe swimming and gymnastics, I think is probably a great way to like start a kid to be able to learn about their bodies and how to like survive in water and how they move, right? Maintain mobility and range of motion through gymnastics. And eventually as they go to school, middle school, the end of middle school, maybe high school, start doing a little more like track and field, which is actually going to train them a little more in terms of their conditioning and more of that fitness side of it, right? That's what I think it's the best way, and that's what I've been actually, telling my clients and a little some of my students and everything, right? But what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you, since they're little to like about middle school or high school, what do you guys think is best for a kid to be able to like stay active, and what are the best options for parents to like kind of encourage them to do?
Yeah. I was just going to say, first, I think it's really important for kids to learn that they're the boss of their own body.
Okay.
So I do think they can start choosing and picking things early on, but what they don't get to choose is whether or not they're active. Like everyone in our family does some kind of activity.
Okay.
But you can choose, do you want to do gymnastics or do you want to do dance or parkour or whatever.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
The swimming is non-negotiable. This is just my personal parenting thing. But I agree. I've heard, and I can see the rationale that gymnastics is kind of like the primer to all athleticism,
Yeah.
like in terms of mobility and learning how to fall and like being coordinated. And yeah, swimming is absolutely necessary. So that's, unless you want to never swim or wear a life jacket your whole life, you have to do swimming.
Yeah.
That's what I tell my kids.
All kids should at least learn the basics of it, right?
You
Just
like the
how can
paddleboard, you like the
survive?
boat, you have to take some lessons. Yeah.
And even if you don't, I feel like everybody should. I mean, water's scary, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But otherwise, I think what you just laid out sounds perfect.
Okay, so I know that.
Sorry.
How old are your kids, Bree?
4 and 2.
Okay, so they're right there, right? 4 and 2, they're like right there where like kind of the age that I'm talking about they start. So if you don't mind sharing,
Sure.
what do you kids do now? How do you keep them?
Yeah, we just, I think a lot of it's exposure to a lot of physical activity. I mean, they see us doing CrossFit all the time, so they're already, I mean, my daughter will pick up a broom and start doing snatches. I mean, she understands the movements.
It's probably because she sees you guys do
right,
it too,
and
right?
they do skin the cats on the rings and the bar over there. They practice deadlifts. They try to lift the kettlebell to do deadlifts. I mean, they see these movements all the time, so they just, we're modeling it for them. But in terms of what they choose, right now Logan is really into rock climbing, ice skating, and dance.
And he's 2? Wait, Logan, sorry,
4.
she's 4. Yeah,
She's 4.
Right.
Parker is not as adventurous. So Logan's also snow skiing. So these are all just things she's seen us do, and we took her along with us, and she decided to join in. She's also tree climbing. I mean, we're outside hours a day sometimes, and she's tree climbing, she's climbing play structures at the park, she's jumping off the top of things. I mean, you know, in safe ways. I mean, for her level. I'm there to kind of just guide her, and so that she can learn how to do these things safely. And I think it's important, I think especially for girls, to learn how to fall. Because girls have traditionally been, I don't want to say coddled, but told not to jump off things because they'll hurt themselves. They're delicate, right? And I think as college athletes, women tend to get hurt more because they were never taught how to fall. They were never taught the correct way to fall. And so I think just a wide variety that uses a lot of coordination, range of motion, uses her strength. She's learning her own strength. Which is great to see. Like, she thinks she can't do something, and then all of a sudden she can do it, and it blows her mind. And it's amazing. And she's learning balance. I mean, I thought she wasn't going to be able to move at all the first day she started ice skating, and she was going around in circles.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so just exposing them to physical activity, I think, and giving them choice.
Also, like Parker's age, even before they can take a gymnastics class, like having them outside barefoot on uneven ground, like not in a paved place all the time, you know, having them on a hillside, having them navigate things that are uneven. That's something like in sort of like concrete jungle world that you almost have to seek that out sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it seems like what you guys are saying is you got to get your kids out there. Like if your kids spend too much time inside the house, at home, they're going to probably not develop those skills as soon, right? Or they're going to have a little harder time as they grow up.
But it goes further than that. It's if they don't develop these core muscles from just climbing and running and being kids, they're going to have trouble with fine motor skills. They're going to have trouble in writing. Like, people aren't going to be able to read their writing. They miss milestones in terms of just academic development because of their inability to, develop their core muscles. And they also develop injuries very, very, very easily. And a lot of parents are like, oh, my kid jumped off the couch and broke their ankle, and then they never let them do it again. And that is the problem. They become overbearing, and then the issue gets even worse instead of getting better.
That makes total sense. That's really interesting. So I feel like we can talk about health, wellness, fitness, all this, and kids in general, like a lot, right? There's so many topics that we can talk about, and it's crazy. Now, before I wrap this up and we finish, I know that you guys have, I don't know if you guys are doing this together or not, but there's a workshop, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that before we finish.
We're doing a 2-hour workshop. right here at my house.
Probably not in the gym.
No, not in the gym. Not in the gym.
Okay.
Upstairs in the kitchen.
Perfect. When is that?
What?
When is that?
Okay, so it's April 13th from 1 to 3. It's on kids and family nutrition.
Okay.
So it's just a basic program, like it's almost an introductory program to not only how to feed your family healthy food, but where to find the healthy food, how to like use mindfulness and other practices to figure out if what you're eating is adversely affecting your health or if it's making you feel good. Just kind of tuning into how food makes you feel. Also, we talk about lots of tips and tricks on getting kids to eat healthier.
Okay.
So yeah.
And someone was asking today that doesn't have young kids at home any longer, like if that would be something that she could go to. And the whole point of what the book is and what the workshop is going to be is that there doesn't have to be 2 sets of rules.
Okay.
You don't have to cook 2 dinners. You don't have to have a kid's menu. Like, so yes, these things are important for anyone who's trying to think about what's the most easy, basic, simple way that I can eat healthy.
Yeah.
It's not the Atkins diet, it's not the keto diet, it's not intermittent fasting, it's not the paleo diet, it's just what's the most whole food, basic way to eat good.
That's awesome. This sounds really interesting.
Right.
I don't have any kids, but can I come?
Yeah.
How do I sign up? So tell me, how can I sign up for it? Do you guys have any way for like to get contact? How can I actually save a spot, or how does it work?
Sure. So you can sign up through my website, which is regenlives.com.
Okay, we'll put a link right here.
We'll put a link. You just go to the classes and events and sign up. You can also send us questions. We're both on social media. Mm-hmm. I'm just at Regen Lives, and she's...
So my workshops are a little bit more geared towards intermittent fasting at this current point. So I'm much more like playing a supportive role on this one.
Okay.
So my website's sadiehanna.com.
Okay.
And so I'm not running the comprehensive wellness workshops that I normally do.
Okay.
I'm just running a sort of smaller, more narrow online intermittent fasting workshop, and working more on speaking and writing.
Okay.
So my website again is sadiehanna.com, but for this workshop it's regenlives.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I forget all this, I'll listen to it, or I'll ask you guys. We'll put the links so people can actually sign up for it and go and check that out and everything. Is there last thing? Is there anything that you like maybe personally, maybe like you guys remember really well, it changed your life, something really short or small that you can suggest or recommend to people that they can just kind of put in their minds to be able to make those changes? I know there's this topic, and what they can do is it's huge, right? People will sometimes make it need to make big changes. But is there anything that you have in your head that is like, okay, this helps me a lot through every day, or changed my life a long time ago? Is there anything that you have that you can share, just real quick, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think for me, my journey's been really long. I think it's been 10 years of making really small changes, just over time. And what stuck with me after making all these changes is I didn't actually know how good I could feel. I realized I was living with a little bit of discomfort that I never even knew I had.
It just seems normal.
And now it's like I've gotten to a point where I feel so good that every time I, over the holidays, if I just eat terribly, I feel the consequences of that. And then I'm like, why did I do that? That's so horrible. So I just didn't know how good I could feel. And I think once you do, it's easy to stick to.
So I think small changes is probably the way to go, right? Instead of trying to make huge changes, like just one thing at a time.
It's just easier to stick to.
Yeah. Sadie?
I think probably just the principle of reflection. So making a ritual of having time to reflect, whether that's just quiet time in the morning while you're drinking your tea or coffee, whether it's at night as you're playing through your day, thinking about like what went well, what didn't go well, or whether it's physically like make a small change.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Had a great time talking to Bree and Sadie about kind of what's going on with them. I had a little bit of problem with this audio, so I caught a little bit of Sadie's last words there. But they're super awesome ladies. If you guys want to find them, the links are below. Go check them out. They have a lot of stuff going on that you guys can probably benefit from. And of course, sign up for that workshop. And hopefully you guys enjoy the podcast. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys like it, please subscribe, click like on that video. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys pretty soon. All right, thanks so much. See ya.